fact that there's an imbalance in this Commonwealth, that it isn't a Commonwealth. The Financial Control Board proves that we're merely in a situation where there are entities that are collection agencies for Wall Street, and Puerto Rico is merely one giant ATM, and they're seeking to turn the public infrastructure of Puerto Rico, the roads, bridges, highways, schools, anything that is publicly owned as the collateral for this supposed debt. And if we perpetuate that relationship, that Commonwealth, that's exactly what Puerto Rico is just going to be. It's going to be a one-way ATM for Wall Street. Statehood is preferable, in my view, to Commonwealth, but it's not foreseeable at all in the near future. First of all, that $73 billion quote-unquote debt would have to be resolved. Secondly, economically, if Puerto Rico were to become a state, it could immediately renegotiate it would have access to Chapter 9 bankruptcy and could therefore renegotiate its municipal bond debt and major portions of that supposed $73 billion debt. That would mean basically the implosion of the municipal bond market in Wall Street. The American economy is roughly $18 trillion a year. The municipal bond market is about $4 trillion a year. Every year, if you divide 4 into 17, roughly 20 to 22% of the American economy is being filtered through these municipal bond instruments. With its access to Chapter 9 bankruptcy, Puerto Rico could renegotiate its municipal bond debt. Then all 50 states would insist on the same privilege. This would mean a simultaneous litigation and renegotiation of all the municipal bond debt from all 50 states in Wall Street, which is 20% of the American economy. And Wall Street would not be able to sustain that. It would implode the municipal bond market. For that major reason, Wall Street would oppose it. Also because Puerto Rico, as a non-state, can issue triple tax exempt bonds, exempt from federal, state, and city taxes. And the annual yield on those has been 15 to 18%. That would also disappear. The United States, the Wall Street, the economic entities, major economic entities of the United States wouldn't want that. Puerto Rico would also be in a position to start renegotiating and advocating for the end of the Jones Act, which is responsible for about 15% add-on to every consumer item in Puerto Rico. The same car, make and model number in Miami costs about $6,000 more in San Juan than it does in Miami. Every consumer item in Puerto Rico, food, clothing, oil, the entire energy grid of Puerto Rico is run on imported oil, which coming in under the Jones Act costs 15% more. In a jurisdiction where the per capita income is less than half that of Mississippi, the poorest state in the United States, that has an 11.5% sales tax, and over 150 taxes have been raised in the last 7 years to satisfy Wall Street's demand for austerities. Puerto Rico is not in a position to sustain that, and it would eliminate that very quickly and aggressively if it were to become a state. That plus the fact that the Teamsters Union in Jacksonville will no longer have its monopoly over the emptying of foreign registry vessels and then dumping those goods into American vessels, which is what's required under the Jones Act. The Teamsters unions would be opposed. So if you have the Teamsters unions, the car makers, all the consumer good company, the oil traders, Wall Street, in economic opposition to Puerto Rico becoming a state, becomes a lot less likely. Politically, if Puerto Rico became a state, you'd have 5 fire-breathing Democratic Congress people, 2 senators that would come in as Democrats. The Republican Party would certainly oppose anything, would suddenly help to tip the balance even further in both houses in favor of the Democratic Party. Also, it's a zero-sum game in Congress. You can add two senators, U.S. senators, but you can't add Congress people without a constitutional amendment. So roughly 5 or 6 states would each have to divest of 1 congressperson to accommodate, because it's a zero-sum game. You can only have the same amount of congresspeople. So those states would be opposed, whether they're Republican or Democrat, red or blue. So you have that political opposition, and then you have sociological opposition. We're in a country where Donald Trump says, build a wall, and he gets elected. We have an author who writes a book called Adios America, and it becomes a New York Times #1 bestseller. Beating up on Latinos and on immigrants has become a national sport. It is not Latino-friendly by any stretch, as was proven in the last election cycle with Donald Trump, in both actually, and what is shaping up as the upcoming cycle. So economically, politically, sociologically, I don't see statehood developing anytime soon. That leaves independence. Independence in name only won't work for Puerto Rico. What would work is multiple sovereignties, whereby Puerto Rico builds its independence in a de facto basis. Food independence. In 1898, when the United States occupied, agriculture was roughly 80% of Puerto Rico's economy. It is currently 0.8%, 1/100th of what it was. Puerto Rico is simply not feeding itself. Puerto Rico imports practically every consumer item, including oil, which is running the energy system of PREPA. It is utterly dependent on this foreign imported oil. So we're looking at food independence, energy independence, transportation independence. We have over 1 million cars in Puerto Rico. We have to develop other ways than depending on, again, foreign cars, imported very often through U.S. importers and distributors. So if you add all those together, now, the energy independence is important because as the hurricanes have shown, we're utterly dependent now on this foreign oil and a crumbling energy infrastructure. But through solar, air, hydro, Puerto Rico is just surrounded by alternative energy opportunities, but it has not been supported by the prevailing political structure, especially Pierluisi. Pierluisi right now, the governor, is looking to push and has used the Luma contracts as a way of retrofitting and reverse engineering a lot of the energy transfer stations in the PREPA maintenance structure to liquid natural gas. He's been part of the Luma contract is that Luma is helping Puerto Rico become physically ready for liquid natural gas transfer. So the governor of Puerto Rico currently is advocating and through executive orders and through sole source RFPs and through its relationship with Luma, creating energy dependence, which is exactly the opposite of what Puerto Rico needs. So if we build the multiple sovereignties of Puerto Rico, food independence, energy independence, transportation independence, then we can get to the point where Puerto Rico can be on a de facto basis, day to day, be living an independent life. So my final, where I come down on independence, but it has to be built from the inside.